The USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York has always been a stage for champions. On September 7th, 2025, however, the crowd's attention wasn't only on the men's singles final between Jannik and Carlos Alcaraz. Another figure stole the spotlight: US President Donald Trump. His attendance transformed the atmosphere, heightening security, creating delays, and drawing a mixed chorus of cheers and jeers when his image appeared on the stadium's massive jumbotron. The day began like any other final at Flushing Meadows, with fans streaming in hours before the match. But the security presence was unmistakable. Barricades were tighter, checkpoints stricter, and bag inspections unusually thorough. The reason was clear: the President of the United States was in attendance. Trump entered the stands shortly before the players walked onto the court. Cameras immediately locked on him, capturing the former real estate mogul and now sitting president as he took his place beside Attorney General Pam Bondi and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. His appearance was both ceremonial and symbolic, a sitting US president watching one of the sport's biggest showdowns live. Journalists stationed courtside noted that his arrival delayed the start of the final. Thousands of fans were still outside, waiting in long lines caused by tightened security protocols. Many seats inside remained empty as the chair umpire prepared for the coin toss. For spectators, the usual electric buzz of anticipation carried an extra layer of tension. The television broadcast couldn't resist. Within minutes of his arrival, the cameras panned to Trump. First came a mid-shot, followed by a slow tracking angle, then a wide pullback showing him seated between Bondi and Leavitt. Each frame underscored the moment: the president at leisure in a public arena, surrounded by the pageantry of sport, yet under the weight of politics. As the production team zoomed out for a sweeping shot of the stands, the image spoke volumes. Trump was no longer just a spectator. His presence had become part of the spectacle itself. The decisive moment came midway through the first set. The giant jumbotron inside Arthur Ashe Stadium lit up with Trump's face. The crowd's reaction was immediate and divided. Applause erupted from some sections, while audible boos rolled in from others. The president himself smiled faintly and gave a small wave. For those watching, the gesture seemed carefully measured, an acknowledgement without full engagement, as though he was aware of the mixed emotions around him. Spectators, meanwhile, exchanged sharp comments. Some cheered loudly, treating his appearance as a patriotic symbol. Others shook their heads, visibly irritated that politics had intruded into what they saw as a sporting sanctuary. On the court, Italy's Jannik and Spain's Carlos Alcaraz battled fiercely for dominance. But throughout the evening, eyes continued to drift back toward the stands. Trump's presence lingered like a shadow, unshakable even amid blistering forehands and dramatic rallies. When Sinner fired an ace down the tee, some spectators clapped politely, but immediately returned to gossip about the president's security detail. When Alcaraz broke serve, cheers filled the stadium, but the buzz of conversation about Trump quickly drowned it out. The intersection of politics and sport was impossible to ignore. Outside, fans caught in the long entry lines expressed frustration. One woman, visibly irritated, remarked, "It's supposed to be tennis, not a campaign rally." "We missed half the first set because of this." Another, wearing a red cap, countered proudly, "This is our president." Of course, they need to make sure everything's safe. Inside, reactions were just as polarized. A man in the upper deck yelled loudly, "Trump 2025, while a group nearby booed in response. A family seated closer to the court whispered to each other about how surreal it felt to see world politics collide so directly with world-class tennis. The image of Trump flanked by Bondi and Leavitt carried its own symbolism. Bondi, long one of Trump's most loyal political allies, and Leavitt, his combative press secretary, formed a protective ring. Together, they projected an image of solidarity at a moment when Trump's administration was under scrutiny for its foreign and domestic policies. To critics, the scene reinforced the idea that Trump thrives on visibility and spectacle. To supporters, it demonstrated accessibility, a president willing to share a public stage with everyday citizens at a cultural event. By the end of the night, Sinner and Alcaraz had given the audience the athletic drama they came for. Yet much of the media coverage the next morning focused less on the final score and more on the president in the stands. Photographs of Trump's reactions, clapping, leaning in to whisper to Bondi, glancing upward at the jumbotron, dominated front pages. Editorials debated whether his presence was a distraction or a statement of support for American cultural life. Television networks replayed the moment of his appearance on the big screen, analysing the mix of applause and boos. The debate became less about tennis and more about Trump himself, his ability to polarize, his insistence on visibility, and his knack for turning any arena into a political stage. This was not Trump's first foray into blending politics with sport. Throughout his presidency, he had attended boxing matches, UFC events, and college football games, each time generating headlines beyond the sporting results. The US Open, however, carried a unique prestige. Tennis is global, with audiences spanning continents. His appearance was not only a domestic spectacle, but also an international signal. Foreign correspondents highlighted the scene, noting how America's president was once again at the center of attention, even in spaces designed for neutrality. A British journalist described it as a collision of politics and play, where the spectacle of governance momentarily overtook the spectacle of sport. What remained unmistakable was the division. The US Open final will be remembered for Alcaraz's dazzling athleticism and Sinner's resilience. Yet it will also be remembered for the sight of a president seated in the stands, dividing opinion with a single glance at the jumbotron. One New Yorker put it bluntly as she left the stadium: "Only Trump could make the US Open feel like a campaign stop."